A huge group of college students is having a wild party. Mitch encourages everyone to lock their phones in a bag so that no one can be caught on incriminating pictures or videos that can land them in trouble. Vance and Gilbert suddenly walk onto the stage carrying a ball of a goo that was discovered in the sea. The desire is to have a larger fire in order to burn it, but they are distracted by insults thrown and an argument breaks out. The ball is forgotten and the crowd continues having fun throughout the night. The following morning, as Kaylee wakes up beside Mitch at the lifeguard stand, awkwardness dominates the communal interaction between the two as they recollect what happened last night. Whereas other four friends are getting up in a car, Marcia gets up on a table and throws up instantly. Kaylee glances around and sees a lot of left-behind objects on the sand and no other people, but that is odd. There is also the bird that is on the ground, and Kaylee is alarmed after watching it sink into the sand. As Marcia moves towards AKA, Kaylee attempts to tell the former not to do it, yet it is too late. Her feet are glued and she cannot take them off regardless of how hard she tries. Her hands also get stuck when she touches them with the sand. Initially, the group in the car believes that she is test driving them, but her shrieks and tears convince them otherwise, that she is actually afraid. Vance desires to assist her and does not pay attention to the rest when they attempt to intervene. He leaps out of the automobile and takes just a couple of steps before falling down and becoming entangled in the same. When Vance begins screaming in pain, Mitch and Jonah are on the verge of assisting him, but the girls intervene. When Vance starts to sink down to the sand, Jonah attempts to start up the car, but it fails. Mitch throws a rope with a buoy on it, but fails to fall near enough. At this point, Vance has lost half his face, and as he seeks to rise his head, he is drawn down by very thin strands. Within a few minutes, the two of them are lost in the sand. Then the group talks about what to do. They are unable to call 911 as they have their phones in the trunk and car battery is dead, hence Jonah cannot make the car start. Kaylee touches the sand with her hand without touching it, and everyone is appalled to see some strange strands emerging. It is at this time that Gilbert wakes up. It happens that he has been trapped inside a trash can with a naughty drawing on his face due to a party prank. He begins to insult his friends that left him there and attempts to escape, not listening to the warnings that the others are shouting. Gilbert does not stop moving until they state that two people are dead. He says that his body is sore since he is stuck there, so Mitch reminds him that a few hours later, the tide will drive him towards them. Then Kaylee pulls Mitch into the lifeguard stand. Jonah is jealous of them, and Chanda reminds him that he has to let it go. As the mysterious strands attempt to grab the tires of the cars, Kaylee and Mitch discover that there is some alcohol in the cooler and begin to drink. Endless hours go by, and no one comes. The sun is becoming hot, and the passengers in the car attempt to wrap themselves in a towel. Kaylee now manages to be courageous enough to question Mitch as to what they did last night, and Mitch assures her that they simply chattered. Mitch discovers sunscreen in the lifeguard stand, and Kaylee throws it at her friends in the automobile. When they talk about what happened last night, they get to know that the rest of the partygoers were not gone. They were devoured by the sand. All the people are crying except Gilbert, who begins to freak out as the heat is scalding his skin. Jonah throws him the sunscreen, which puts him off in the meantime. That is when Kaylee sees the goo ball dry and cracked in half. Ronnie understands that it has a look of being hatched. That is, it is not a ball, it is an egg, and the monster that is in the sand and will be eating people is the one that got out of the egg. It was only born last night, and it is, therefore, not very big, according to deductions made by Kaylee. She takes out a sausage in the cooler and throws it on the sand, and everyone can see how the strands drag it underground. They toss in some additional sausages, given that they want to know the extent to which the monster will go, yet the strands continue to appear. One of the sausages is picked by a bird, which it comes to eat, but the strands catch it and kill it very quickly. They toss the final sausage elsewhere, and the monster does not consume it, hence that is the safe side. It is not that far, yet far enough to make it dangerous to get to it. The group starts fighting once again, and Ronnie reminds them that they have not seen a single car or even a person move in hours, so she cannot be this easy. Jonah is not ready to relinquish and takes two surfboards in the rear of the vehicle and tosses them on the beach. The monster does not respond, and thus he leaps on them without any harm. He is also able to change the boards to move safely. Jonah halts the motion when Kaylee reminds him that he does not put his fingers too close to the sand and declares that they need to talk. He isolates all those who cheated last night, but his friends believe that this should be discussed later, and what is important is to avoid arrest. Jonah continues to move, and on reaching a bench, the surfboard skids and he is just seconds away to fall, but he clings to the bench. The other strands of monsters make the others aware of the boards being pulled back and command Jonah to return, but he insists he can still rescue himself. Suddenly, the strands are seen beneath Jonah and feel his stomach, hence he jumps to make it finally to the top of the table. The strands even make him have bleeding wounds on his skin, and Jonah begins to feel dizzy, so he lays down, hearing a pitching sound in his ears rather than the voices of his friends that were in distress. A few seconds later, Jonah comes back to himself, complaining of the pain, that it is like 1,000 jellyfish. As the wounds are not very deep, Ronnie comes up with the conclusion that the strands are poisonous. Jonah inhales heavily and compels himself to move on because there is a bag on the bench. He manages to find food and even drops a banana, which is not sinking. Picking it up, he sees the strands and pulls the banana down again, but the monster appears only in the sand, but not on the place base of the bonfire. Then he hops off the bench to land on the same spot and nothing occurs, and that proves his theory. The monster hates fire. Jonah consumes the banana to celebrate, but in horror, Jonah can observe his stomach wounds starting to spew pus. Kaylee soothes him with sweet words but firm and instructs him to go back into the table to check again on the bag. Some of the drinks are found, and he starts throwing them to his friends, but when he is throwing the final can, the bench breaks and he slips. His wounds are dripped more with pus before it begins to pop and bleed, making him scream with pain. Jonah struggles, and with much effort, he is able to move and sit back on the table. Meanwhile, the surfboards are moving independently, indicating that the monster is stealing any access they will have to move. Then the strands are shown below the car to stick onto the tires in an attempt to pull them. Gilbert inquires about the phones, and Ronnie starts fiddling with the back seats to gain access to the trunk, but it does not unlock. Instead, she declares that she will attempt to stand on the bumper to break the lock, but the metal is hot, and she has to cover the trunk with the towel. Ronnie leaves behind Chanda by telling her in the notebook that she wrote a letter to her mom and requests that she gives it to her mom in case of unforeseen events. Ronnie is on the trunk, crawling with her hands on the trunk and lowering her body to rest on the bumper by holding the hands of her open mouth as a security measure. In the meantime, Kaylee looks at the rest of them. Jonah is in a coma, and Gilbert will be passing out shortly due to the heat, not to mention that the metal of the cans is cutting through his flesh. Ronnie is able to insert the keys within the lock and begins to open the trunk, but the lid begins to slide down. Luckily, she does cling and does not fall. She attempts again, and the lid strikes her legs, leading to her falling and closing the lid once more. Kaylee indicates that the trunk is too broad, and therefore she will be forced to lean back. Chanda rolls the towel up into a rope. However, it is still not long enough that Ronnie can lean back and open the trunk simultaneously. Mitch and Kaylee recollect that there is a rescue hook in the lifeguard stand and hand it to Ronnie, who struggles to move because the car shakes when the monster holds the tires. At long last, Ronnie manages to crack the trunk open very carefully. However, she has not even had a chance to pick up the phones when another vehicle arrives in the beach and honks so hard that she is startled by it. Ronnie falls, and the trunk closes, catching her fingers. As she screams as she gets hurt, the rest begin screaming and shaking arms to draw the attention of the new person. The vehicle halts close to the table, and the beach patrol officer, who is called Alex, rolls his window to inform them that the beach is closed. The friends tell what occurred, but Alex does not believe them because he believes that they have excessively drunk. He does not obey their warnings and gets out of the car, but nothing takes place. Alex visits Jonah and Gilbert and is walking around the beach without problems. It happens that the strands attempt to seize his feet to no avail as they are unable to get through his boots. He teases Gilbert over his size and drawing on his face and attempts to take him out, but fails. Then Alex will see what is happening with Ronnie, but he cannot get her fingers out as well. He continues to offend everyone and suggests that they had taken something illegal. Hence, Kaylee shouts at him that he is useless. Alex approaches the lifeguard stand and starts arguing with Kyle and Mitch, though he does not believe them and threatens to apply force in case they do not come down. He pulls out his pepper spray and in the process spills his car keys after the duo turns them down. His hand becomes stuck as soon as he puts his hand down to pick them. Kaylee instructs him to shoot the pepper spray, and as Alex sprays the strands, they sink underground and release them. When he realizes that his arm has already been eaten, Alex screams in pain and falls on the sand because the monster has begun pulling him. The ramp on the stand allows Ronnie to get near enough to take the pepper spray and does not heed the screams of Alex, who is crying to be saved, instead allowing him to sink to his death. Mitch then pulls up his flip-flops after spotting the boots of Alex, and he requests Chanda to give out her towels so that he uses them as covers to his feet. He gets the former with ease, but as he reaches out to the latter, the railing snaps and he crashes on the sand. As soon as the monster strands, he is grabbed at by all the inch of his body it can reach, so the rest are forced to watch as Mitch slowly bleeds to death as his body disappears into the sand. The monster strands instantly run to him and seize every part of the body they can get hold on, and the rest are forced to witness how Mitch is bled to death by them, and his body is sinking back into the sand. The strands go to the extent of tearing apart his shirt and going through his mouth and eyes. As soon as the body is dead, the blood is marks where he was killed. Then Kaylee sees that the monster is lifting the railing that is broken and tells Chanda to take it. Kaylee snaps off more of the railing as well with the towel and throws it at Chanda. Then she makes the brave decision and leaps off the stand, fortunately falling on the car. Suddenly, Kaylee hits Chanda on the account of getting naughty with her boyfriend, and the girls conclude they are even at this point. Jonah apologizes to Kaylee about what he has done, and they both say to one another that they love each other. Gilbert employs his final strength to turn around in the trash can to achieve better communication with his friends, and the strands continue to extend towards the dripping blood. Kaylee and Chanda drag the body of Ronnie until they reach a place where they can get her hand out, by which they wrap up the hand with the towel. Then they stuck the pieces of railing on the the sand to create a bridge, and Chanda walks on it. As she tells us, she actually did not do anything with Jonah last night. When Chanda is able to arrive on the table safely, Kaylee also crosses to get to her boyfriend. Ronnie is next, and she is distracted when she sees blood dripping out of the towel. When Ronnie trips and falls, Kaylee starts spraying papers to allow them time to buy. It looks as though Ronnie is okay, and Kaylee grabs her arm, but the strands of the monsters reach out to Ronnie by another arm and drag her to the ground in order to sink her. All of them are crying, oblivious to the fact that the strands are gradually ascending to the trash can of Gilbert. Chanda opts to put the plan of Mitch into test by wrapping her feet in the towels. She runs as many as she could, and she succeeds to climb on the car of Alex. Gilbert then realizes that the can is moving and panics, but this does not last very long. Immediately after he declares it as over, he spits blood, and huge tentacles emerge out of the can and surround his body. They knock him down on the spot and leave nothing but blood. Then the monster shakes the car of Alex, and Chanda falls on the hood, knocking her head, and faints. Some hours pass by, and the night comes. Chanda then finally wakes up and finds that there is a raft on the car. She throws it down to the sand so as to reach the table, and now she is able to assist Kaylee to take Jonah in the automobile. Just then, the ground begins shaking, and Kaylee slips backwards on the raft. As she is about to get back into the car, a tentacle is glowing and reaches out in front of her and attempts to strike her, but as she avoids it, simply shuts the door of the car and disappears. Then Kaylee hops up to the top of the car, gets a gas can, which is once again ripped open by the tentacle, and the gas flies everywhere upon it. Kaylee takes a second can and pours it on the sand, then steals a couple of matches out of her pocket. As the tentacle again attempts to attack her, Kaylee lights the matches and throws them on it, causing the whole tentacle to burst into flame. When the creature wriggles and squeals, Chanda arrives at the door to help Kaylee to get into the car as well. The monster attempts to open the door, but the girls drag it back to the door. It even makes attempts to crash into the car with its now larger strands to no end. Thus, it resorts to fading away. The girls pause to draw breath, and this makes them know that Jonah is dead, hence they start crying. The car is discovered by a surfer the next morning, and he knocks on the window to wake them up. They emerge and walk on the sand without problem, and this indicates that the monster has vanished. As Kaylee and Chanda begin heading home, the monster is swimming in the ocean with the aim of finding a new beach with new prey.